Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help her with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. Hey you guys, and welcome back to another episode of The Gray in Between. I'm your host Lola, and today I can't even get into this because I just love my makeup so much. And if you're from the Bay Area, you automatically know who Makeup by Roko is, and I had the honor of getting my makeup done by her today, and we had a really fun photo shoot, and we thought it'd be a great idea for me to end the night with doing an episode fully glammed by her. It's currently 10:36, but here I am because I can't take my makeup off, and this gives me another reason to prolong the inevitable. My aunt ruined the birth of my child, and I can't forgive her. I, a 39 female, had a baby girl a few months ago. Because I'm older and single, this is likely the only pregnancy and childbirth experience I'll ever have. The dad is involved but was in a different state for work at the time of my early necessary C-section. When I was 37 weeks, the doctors flagged a potential complication and sent me straight from my appointment to the hospital to give birth. Thankfully, everyone is healthy. During my pregnancy, I daydreamed about new motherhood. One of the things I was excited about was how I would announce the birth. I wanted to get a nice photo and choose who I tell first. Here's where my aunt comes in. My aunt, 70 female, is something of a known, well-meaning pain in the ass throughout the family. She's incredibly pushy. She finds some new trend, for example, tapping, yoga, etc., and insists it will fix everyone's life if they do it. It doesn't matter how many times you say no, she'll leave pamphlets under the windshield wipers of your car. Many of her sentences begin with, I know you said you don't like this, but I know you told me not to, but I know you won't agree, but it's honestly enraging. Thing is, because my baby needed to be born early, my support person wasn't available. I have no siblings. My dad passed many years ago. My mother was extremely abusive during my childhood and has no interest in being in my life now that I'm an adult. My best friend lives pretty far away and has young kids. My child's dad was out of state for work, so I really had nobody to be with me. I appreciated my aunt's willingness to be there, and since I don't have a mother, so to speak, I really felt like I couldn't be too choosy if someone was willing to be there for me. So I put up with a lot of boundary crossing, a lot of insisting I try this or that while I was in a ton of pain and stress. She tried to push me to do meditation and I said no like 5 times. But an hour later, when I was in pain from the failed induction or getting my blood drawn, she'd clasp her hands and say, "You want to try the meditation now?" It was maddening and I was really hitting a breaking point. When my daughter was born, she cut the cord without asking me if I'd like to do it. She held my daughter before I got the chance. She shoved the camera in my face and recorded the moment I met my own child. I can't even watch the video now because I see myself nervously staring at the camera, self-conscious as she waves me to do something with my daughter. But I could forgive all of that. The big issue is what happened after my C-section. It was about 11 p.m. I was still shaky from the anesthesia. I was nauseous and numb. My daughter was only about 2 hours old. I was still processing what happened, helpless and unable to walk, barely able to think. My aunt stood over my bed, literally hovering over me, and asked if she could text the family to tell them I'd given birth. I told her no. She said, "Why not?" All I could repeat was, "No." She kept asking me why not. Then she finally said, "I don't accept that answer. There are people who are worried about you and we need to tell them right now." I told her I haven't even told my father yet, and she nodded and said, "Okay, I'll step out for 1 minute so you can call him, and then when I come back, we're telling the family." I was so numb and so tired and so confused, literally full of anesthesia, literally paralyzed and holding my daughter. I'd been a mom for less than 3 hours. I didn't know what was even happening. I called the dad and told him, and then when my aunt burst back in, I hung up on him. I don't even remember the conversation. She then stood over me and made me text the family. All I had was a blurry photo of my daughter, covered in blood and grease, wrapped hastily in a hospital towel. The following morning, a hospital photographer came and took beautiful pictures of my daughter in a nice swaddle with the hat I bought from home and a shiny pink ribbon. That is the photo I wanted to give to my family, but instead, the first photo that her dad and all of my friends and family saw is some blurry, bloody photo that my aunt took. Thinking about it now still makes me actually shake with rage. The dad is incredibly pissed as well. He feels like that moment was taken from him too. I did tell my aunt about this after I had time to process, and she apologized, but she's learned nothing. She continues to overstep. For my birthday, she gave me a present to mommy from my daughter. And that's the first gift from my daughter. I feel like that's something that her dad should have been able to do for me, or for my actual daughter to do when she's older. But even though we're not really that close, my aunt keeps acting like she's more involved than she actually has any right to be. She has 2 adult kids, both married, both in their 40s, and both having expressed no desire to have kids. She makes a lot of comments about if my daughter was her grandchild, etc. She even tried to use me to convince her daughter-in-law to have kids. The more time that passed, the more mad I get. That is my only child. That is the biggest day of my life. Even if I live to be 100, even if I have 5 more kids, there's only one first. But all I see when I look back to that date is my aunt standing over my bed, phone in hand, waggling her fingers, eyes wide, talking in her hyper voice about how I need to tell everyone right now at 11 p.m. I don't know what to do. She said she was sorry, but that doesn't fix it. She has since done more things to show me her behavior will never change. When my daughter was a few days old, she brought a house cleaner to my house and made me pay them $600. Usually, typically in these situations when someone has a baby, as friends and family will send food to your house, DoorDash, gift cards, send a cleaner to your house that they would pay for. Why would she? That's what? They bleached the house and it stank so badly that I took my daughter out to the car. It was 25 degrees out, so I just sat in the heated car, holding my newborn baby, sobbing because I couldn't take it anymore. I called another family member and she came and got me and the baby. And I sat on her couch and cried for hours about how awful this has been. My aunt still doesn't get it. She thinks she helped me and that I'm just being unreasonable. My child's dad, who was the most mild-mannered, calmest, chillest, nicest guy, snarls a little bit when this aunt's name comes up. He tells me to stop answering her calls, and to be honest, I've started to do that, but the anger never goes away. You're still upset because you're not over it, and you're not going to get over it because her apology isn't real. It's more of a, I'm sorry you feel that way, not I'm sorry for my actions. It's more of like, stop asking me about it, shut up, I don't care that you feel this way, I don't want to talk about it anymore. A real sorry would have been like her changing her actions the way she is. Like if she really like, wow, I can't believe like I took away that moment from you. I wasn't even thinking about that. She's not going to change, unfortunately, and this is going to be the memory you have forever. That's just the reality of it. Just like take a few steps back, request space, and go no contact until you feel like you see some change and that you're more comfortable with having a relationship with her now. Take as much time as you need to like process the hurt, the betrayal, like the anger, and then decide from there how you want to proceed with it. She probably has good intentions. I get that. Most people do, but it doesn't take away from what happened. And I feel like you've expressed that she's not that close to you. I don't think she knows that because the actions show that she's very close to you and people do these type of things when they're close to you. So I think you need to create a boundary with her, be very serious about it, grow a backbone, and really express why you're setting it and what caused you to do it and the hurt you feel, and for her to really understand it, because I feel like you're kind of wishy-washy about it, which is what is leading to her doing all these things. My fiance cheated on me with a married man, and I'm now going out with his wife. So a few weeks ago, my fiance, 25 female, cheated on me, 28 male, with the guy, 36 male she met at work. She came in after she got off work and immediately broke it off with me. I was 10 minutes away from walking out of the door for work, so I called out to try and fix things. We had our problems, and I had been pretty depressed and was neglectful of our relationship the last few months. But we had just had a conversation about how we were working through our stuff, and I really had no idea anything was that wrong. She told me it was because of my depression, that she was really worried about me and that I needed to go talk to a therapist because she was worried I was going to end up myself. Fast forward a couple of hours and my brain has been in overthinking mode for the wild time. I finally convinced myself that she was cheating on me because she was talking about this guy like a high school girl talks about her crush. And I went through her phone. And I'm not usually the person to do something like that, but I just had to know. And I found some pretty sexually charged messages between them. I stopped as soon as I found them. So no idea how long they've gone out for. And then one of the worst days of my life began. I woke her up and confronted her over it. It took a little bit, but she did admit it. Told me she was afraid I was going to kick her out if I told her the truth. No, duh! Why would you want to be with him? Why would you think you could... This behavior pisses me off. Why do you think you have a right to be there if you don't want to be with him anymore? Let him go. It's like, yeah, I'm cheating on you. I'm sleeping with someone else, but I still want to live here. What? I feel like if you truly, truly care about someone, right? Truly care about this person. If you ever love them, so to say, you would let them go and you say, hey, this is not going to work between us. I don't want to do this. Like, I hate when people are selfish like that. This just shows she had no love for you from the beginning. We were together for 4 years. Damn. I was preparing to take on more hours at my job so she could quit hers and take some time to recover from her growing burnout. After we talk and everything is said and done, I call my best friend. I'm not a petty person, but she 100% is. She proceeds to make a post in a local Don't Date That Man Facebook group. Little did we know this was going to absolutely explode. Almost immediately, people are commenting on it. And then his wife, 36 female, comments on it. She had no idea. My best friend reaches out to her and we get all this information from her about him. Audio recordings where he is screaming at her and she is just crying. We see exactly the person this guy is. I send the information to my ex. She has moved in with him at this point, and I can't not warn her about what she has walked into. And he's already gotten her to believe that his wife is a terrible person. So I reach out to his wife. We are both going through an absolutely terrible situation, and we could possibly use the support from someone that can understand what the other is going through. And we start putting everything together. This has been going on for months. Regardless of whether they were sleeping together for the entire time, he had been coming home late every night for several months with food wrappers from where she works overnights at, even though his wife was preparing food and leaving it in the microwave every night for him. Me and her talk for several days, just trying to piece everything together, and we end up finding out we have so much in common. We make each other laugh and we have a good time. So we meet up, and things went from there. We set boundaries because we both realized that if we want to be healthy partners for anyone, much less each other, jumping right into another relationship probably isn't the smartest move. But the more we talk to each other, the harder and faster I fall for her. And I can see that is the same for her. I can see it in her eyes when we meet up at the park and hear it in her voice when we talk on the phone. I didn't want to be with anyone after what I went through, and now all either of us can think about is how scary the future seems. She makes me want to be the man I've always dreamt about being. We have no idea how this is going to play out, but we know that there's absolutely something here. Kind of just sounds to me like you're rebounding. That's what this is. Guys, I can't, this is going to be hard for me because I keep looking at the camera and my makeup is like snatched. Look at my lips, guys. My lips are plumped. Look at that. They look so much bigger than they actually are. Okay, no, I'm sorry. I gotta get back to this. Am I wrong for telling my wife that she owes me an apology for these last 7 years of marriage? I'm 32, my wife is 32. We dated in high school and got married 7 years ago. My wife has always been a scatterbrain. Before marriage, she was always misplacing things and leaving everything half finished. She was chronically late, had clutter all over her living space, and would get bursts of frustration about these messes, which would lead to hyperactivity and to not really doing anything conductive towards a solution. I love her anyway, but at times it was tiring. I saw past that because I knew she was the woman I wanted to marry, and we got married when we were 25. Unfortunately, a lot of the problems she had seemingly accelerated after marriage. We purchased a larger house because she's obsessed with storage space, but this has essentially meant 2 bedrooms are no-go zones for me. They're simply full of clutter. Once they were full, she started leaving things in my office, which I would have to move to not trip over. I tried to convince her for years to go get diagnosed with ADHD and start treatment, but she had a really negative view of ADHD. She viewed it similarly to how she views schizophrenia or psychosis. Not that there's anything wrong with these conditions, but she believes there is. A couple of months ago, she had a girls' night out, and when she came home telling me that she might have ADHD, I had been telling her that for years until she decided that she would have a meltdown every time I brought it up. I first figured that it was because she was 30 minutes late and it caused an issue with her friend. But no. She described her frustration to her friends, and one of them told her that she might have ADHD. A bit of a side note, but when I said it, it was the worst insult imaginable to her. But when her friend said it, it was helpful commentary. Well, my wife finally got herself diagnosed the day before yesterday. She came home from the doctor talking about how it explained everything. I responded that I felt like I was owed an apology. She was initially confused, but I responded that if she had actually addressed this when I asked her all those years ago, I wouldn't have had to live with the constant stress of her chronic tardiness, clutter, emotional outbursts, and so on. She responded by shrieking at me, and now she was refusing to even have a word. I feel like I've taken it too far, but were my words towards her justifiable? I think in that kind of situation, it was way too early. I feel like you should have let her gone into, what is it called? Let her get treated and then have like a very deep conversation and feel like this basically was an I told you so, and that's like the worst thing to say to someone, especially when you were right and they were wrong. You think it's very hard for people to admit that they were wrong. Very difficult for most people. I think you have a lot of resentment towards her, and like how to deal with that, no clue. Go see a therapist. I think once she starts her treatment, she'll have a better understanding of your point, but I think it was wrong timing. Right message, wrong timing. And also how you say things. You got to be very careful about how you say stuff but I understand your frustration. Don't get me wrong. But the question is, am I the asshole for telling my wife this? Yeah, I could have said it in a different way and have that conversation at a different time, not when she's telling you, yeah, I am diagnosed with it. You said, I told you so. Not a good response. Am I wrong for letting you know I am divorcing you by sending you a thread on the website that you used to ignore me? Oh my God. Hi, Stefan. Maybe you will finally listen. And if you're wondering if you can just speed home and stop me from doing this and leaving, it's too late. I'm sending you this after I've already loaded up everything in the car and left. Don't worry, I spoke with our landlord and took my name off the lease. I set up a direct deposit for the next month's rent. After that, you're on your own, buddy. I guess you're wondering why. I'm guessing you'll act like you're completely blindsided, right? Because you've done absolutely nothing wrong and you're a great husband and father to be, aren't you? Well, buddy, let me break it down for you in a language you understand. I, 29 female, have been married to my husband, 35 male, for 5 years. We've been together for nearly 10. On paper, everything seemed fine. But in reality, our marriage has been anything but. I've reached my breaking point and I need to know if I'm the one in the wrong here. From the beginning, my mother-in-law has been a nightmare. She made everything about her from day one. At our wedding, she wore white, claiming it was a family tradition. It wasn't. She constantly criticizes me for my cooking to my appearance. I'll never forget the time she called me fat at a family gathering, right in front of everyone. And what did my husband do? Nothing. Not a single word to defend me. Oh God, guys, I look so cute. I don't know what to do. I'm having a hard time focusing on the story. I just want to look at myself in the mirror. What is this called? It's like a sin. 7 deadly sins. It didn't stop there. She has accidentally destroyed my belongings, including my grandmother's necklace, which she threw out because it looked like cheap costume jewelry. She's gone out of her way to make me feel small and unwelcome in my own home. But every time I tried to talk to my husband about it, he'd brush it off, saying I was overreacting or being too emotional. And then there's my husband. He's always on Reddit, constantly giving strangers relationship advice, which is laughable considering how he treats me. He spends more time reading women's boobs on Reddit than talking to me. Literally. And just so you know, the last pair he rated weren't a 4 out of 10. They were a 10 out of 10. Yeah, he's got plenty of time to do that, but he can't be bothered to remember anything about my life. He'll forget my birthday, our anniversary, even simple things like what I'm working on or what's important to me. But he has a perfect memory for his work schedule and things that matter to him. When we fight, he becomes incredibly hostile and always throws a sarcastic buddy at the end of his sentences, like I'm some acquaintance he can barely tolerate. And he never cleans. The house, the dishes, laundry, you name it. It's all on me. It's like he thinks being an adult is optional, as long as he's got his first job and his Reddit account. The final straw came a few weeks ago. I'm 5 months pregnant with our first child, a daughter. My mother-in-law started making comments about how she'll have to whip the girl into shape and how she'll raise her to be tough because I'm too soft. When I told my husband that I didn't want his mother to have too much influence on our daughter, especially with the way she treats me, he just laughed it off, saying his mother means well and that I was overthinking it. But the moment that truly broke me was when we were talking about future childcare and my husband suggested that his mother should watch our daughter while we work. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that, especially considering how his mother treats me, and he snapped. He called me paranoid and said I should get over it because his mother was going to be a big part of our daughter's life whether I liked it or not. This is the same woman who believes corporal punishment is okay. I've seen her hit my husband's nephew for the smallest things, and no one does anything about it. It's like they're all living in some kind of cult, and I'm finally waking up to the reality of what's going on. If he wouldn't stand up for me, how could I expect him to stand up for our child? I started to fear for what kind of environment our daughter would grow up in. A place where she might be belittled or bullied by her own grandmother, with a father who wouldn't do anything to stop it. Oh, and did I mention that he missed our first ultrasound? His mother needed him to help her with something urgent. It turned out to be fixing her Wi-Fi. He chose that over seeing our daughter for the first time. That told me everything I needed to know about where I stand in his life. So I packed up and left. I'm done living like this. Oh, and in case you're wondering, I've already contacted a lawyer. You can't scare me into complying anymore because I have all of those texts. You know exactly which ones I'm talking about. So, Stefan, I wish you all the best in your future marriage with your mother and the woman of Reddit whose boobs you don't even deserve. So, Reddit, am I the asshole for leaving my husband after he neglected me for years, let his mother mistreat me, and made me fear for our future daughter's safety? Oh my God, this is crazy. She has a small edit. She says, Stefan has seen this post. He is mad that apparently one of you found him based on the rate my boobs thing. He has deleted his account. For any purposes, I want to clarify that I left out any actual incriminating information that could lead to doxing him. Bravo. Wow. Am I wrong for rage quitting after I lost an election? I, 28 female, have been a member of a large volunteer organization for several years. I'm one of the longest standing members. I spent hundreds of hours on various aspects of it. I've held small leadership positions in almost every area, and I have a large amount of experience being the president of another organization as well. When I first joined, things were not doing well, so I, with others, worked our asses off to improve that, and we did. In fact, we did so well with improving the atmosphere that we had a massive amount of incoming members who quickly became very close with each other, something we specifically encouraged, and have absolutely no idea how bad things used to be, or how much behind-the-scenes work it takes to maintain the way things are now. I ran for president in the most recent election. I ran against 5 other candidates. 4 of us had years of experience and had been prepping our campaign for months and years. One person, let's call him Alex, was extremely new, few weeks, had 0 experience at all, decided to run at the last minute, and had a very large friend group with other new members. Alex was barely allowed to run due to how new they were, but made the cut by a handful of days. You can see where this is going. It was extremely close between me and Alex, and I lost by 1 vote. The rest of the elected officials were all new members of the same friend group, also without experience. Then it was discovered that 9 to 10 votes, Specifically, the vote of other people in leadership positions who worked closely with me were not counted. This was not intentional or malicious, simply a computer error. Apparently, every single one of them voted for me. I technically won. They tried to get the election results overturned because of it, but higher-ups would not allow it because they feared it would look like favoritism. At the end of the day, I was told to keep quiet and not let anyone know about this. This brings me to my current situation. Because nobody on the new executive team has any experience, I started facing a lot of pressure to take on a lower leadership position solely to guide them and ensure our hard work doesn't go to hell. I absolutely refused. In fact, I've decided to drop all leadership roles and do absolutely nothing this year. This has led to multiple people telling me that I don't truly care about the organization and that I'll be responsible for it if it falls apart. I feel like it's a slap in the face to expect me to do what a president does without the title to show it. So, am I wrong for dropping all leadership positions and letting the new team do whatever the hell they want to do? Absolutely not. That's crazy. It's like when people expect you to do more than what you're paid to do. Like, no, I'm doing everything that's in my role. If you wanted me to do something more, you either promote me or had given me the role when I had deserved it. So if these are the people that you want to run things, let them run things the way they want to. I don't think that they aren't overturning the results because it looked like favoritism. I think they aren't trying to overturn it because they look stupid. They look incompetent. Like, look at them. They couldn't even count the votes right the first time. And there's no reason for you to take on a lower leadership role while doing all the work. Get out of here. Who do they think you are? Am I wrong for canceling our vacation less than 24 hours and due to my kids' behavior? My husband and I have 3 kids, 9 male, 8 male, and 3 female. The boys have been driving us crazy. They fight like cats and dogs. We've had countless talks with them about respecting each other to no avail. I understand sibling rivalry, but it's gone to the point it's disruptive to us all, every day. I already told my husband last week I wasn't sure if the vacation was a good idea. My husband shut me down pretty much immediately and things went ahead as planned. First of all, the 3.5-hour car ride was predictably hell. Boys fighting and riling each other up the whole time. Husband and I kept trying to reassure each other that things would be better once we got there and that they would be too excited to cause trouble. We were wrong. They had so many reminders of what not to do once we got to the rental house. So they do everything wrong from the get-go. Shoes on the white furniture? Check. Running in the house? Check. I turned my back for 2 seconds and the 8-year-old threw a box of chalk in the pool to keep his brother from getting it. We went out to lunch and they were out of control in the restaurant. 9 male ran away from us in a strange place because he didn't get his way. We finally go to the beach and they are frankly being brats. Refusing sunscreen, fighting over toys, pushing their luck repeatedly, going farther and farther out in the water than we told them to. By the time we got back to the house, it was around dinner time and I was fed up. They were totally ruining it for everybody. Nothing had worked and I told my husband we needed to go home, for the reasons mentioned above, mainly that they needed to see a real consequence. My husband still insisted it would get better. I put my foot down and told him that I didn't even want to be there at that point, so either I was leaving or we all were. He got super pissed and told me that it was ridiculous and unfair to our daughter. I actually agree with him but saw no other choice at this point. Of course, when I tell the kids, they immediately burst into tears and are begging to stay, promising they will behave. My mother, who came with us, was also near tears. She thinks her precious grandbabies do no wrong. She argued with me too, begging me to just let it go, but I refused to budge. So we left. Less than 24 hours into a 4-day vacation. Half the ride home was spent with them sobbing, and my husband pretty much gave me the silent treatment the whole way. My mother decided to stay behind a little longer, but then started randomly texting me about 30 minutes in, asking if I was serious. She knew I was, and told me the whole reason she came was to spend time with the kids, so I now had ruined it for everybody, and they're only little once. Here we are the following evening, and pretty much no one likes me right now except my 3-year-old. Are they right? Am I the asshole? To be honest, I think it was too far, if only because there should have been consequences for all the little things that they've done previously, like immediately. The first time they're getting reprimanded for their actions is at a family vacation. I think that's going too far. Like, they're not listening at the beach. You leave the beach and you have them sit at home, right? The first time it happens. You don't behave in a restaurant. They don't get dessert and have the food to go. You leave. A consequence was definitely needed, but it feels a lot of like a little immediate consequences were missing, thus the buildup. I think this was like the straw that broke the camel's back for you. And you were like, I'm over it. I don't want to do this anymore. We're done. Let's go home. And I don't think that's fair. And I think your parenting is being undermined by your mom and your husband too. And these kids have never seen consequences in their life. And the first time they did, it's like, all right, you guys, that's it for today's episode. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this episode of The Gray Between. If you have a story to share or a dilemma you'd like me to weigh in on, don't hesitate to reach out. Remember, life isn't always black and white. There's beauty in the gray. Until next time, stay curious, stay kind, and keep exploring the in-betweens. Bye. If you love my jewelry, it's by Jewelry by Knits. Everything's gonna be linked in my Instagram and my TikTok too. If you guys want to see where I got these from, I can't stop looking at myself, and now I have to go wash my face off, and this is like the most upsetting thing I've ever had to do in my life.